right, welcome everyone. Like we said, it's 5:30, so we're going to get started. My name is Malini Sims, and I'm a principal planner with the town. I, along with other planning staff, will be your facilitators this evening. So to start us off, though, first, Mayor Winfield would like to welcome everyone. So, Mr. Mayor, if you would please make sure your video is on and you're unmuted, the virtual floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Ms. Sims.
Oh, I think you are muted.
I thought I had unmuted myself, but okay. Well, welcome everyone. We appreciate you joining us this evening for this kickoff of this second phase of Oro Valley's Path Forward. Your participation tonight and going forward certainly represents your commitment to this process and to the town. As I was saying, our family moved to Oro Valley in 1996. This happens to be my third opportunity to participate in the town's general planning process. I was on a steering committee in 2006, served on a committee similar to what you're doing now in 2016, and then I'm involved in my role as mayor. I think what's important to emphasize is that the plan, Oro Valley Path Forward, is representative of the interests of our community as a whole. And we've received significant input through a variety of different means that has laid an important foundation for this process. And you will be building on that work. But that input from our community will serve as a guide through this entire process and will be a touchstone throughout it. So everything that we do will connect back to those comments that we've received, but also there'll be opportunities for the community to also weigh in on the work that you'll be involved over the next several weeks. Again, the plan is to be representative of the town as a whole, but everyone's participation is important. So again, I want to express my appreciation for your commitment to this process, your time, not only in these meetings, but in prepping for these meetings. I also want to express my appreciation to Ms. Sims and other members of the planning staff who have done incredible work to bring us this far. And so I will turn over to Ms. Sims. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Winfield. So I also want to express our appreciation for everyone joining the kickoff event. Let's see, we have 109 people on this meeting right now, and I know some are joining late. I just want you to know how big that is. That's really huge. 10 years ago, we had about 45 people in our working groups. So this is just to say how online, I know it's a little bit new for some, but how it can really boost participation. Our goals for the working group meetings are to make sure that they're convenient and accessible for all residents who want to participate. But in addition to having high attendance, we also want to make sure that these meetings stay high quality. So to keep the quality high, we will be using a variety of tools to make sure everyone has an opportunity to lend their voice and participate. Now, these tools we'll be using throughout this evening, but you'll also be experiencing them over the next 4 months. So if you don't get them all tonight, just know we'll be practicing as we go along. For me personally, joining online meetings and interacting online was a little bit intimidating. Some of you may also be feeling this way tonight. So I want to quickly go through some instructions to help everyone get a little bit more comfortable with Zoom. So just one moment while I share some slides. All right, so my slides are now up. If you're having trouble seeing them, You may need to change your view to the speaker's view. And also, if you're using an iPad, you may need to swipe left or right to get to the slides. Now, if you're having trouble viewing the slides or any issues with Zoom tonight, please reach out to Renee Overa at 520-229-4939 for assistance. Now, to help make the meetings more engaging, we really want to get to know everyone. We do ask that you have your cameras on, and you can turn your cameras on and off by looking for the camera icon. Throughout the meeting, we'll be asking for your questions, comments, and even getting some guidance from you tonight. I do ask, though, that during the larger group discussions that you please raise your virtual hand to speak. You can do this by clicking on the hand icon. We really want to hear your voice and again, start getting to know each other, but I also understand if you're more comfortable, you can also put your question in the chat box. The chat icon looks like the one on the screen. So lastly, we are asking everyone to please stay muted unless you're going to be speaking, and this will help reduce the background noise. To unmute yourself, please look for the microphone icon. Now, if you're participating via telephone, you will need to press *9 to raise your virtual hand and *6 to unmute. All of these icons may be located at the top or bottom of your screen, depending on what type of device you're using. There may also be these options under the More icon, which is also shown on the screen. And again, if at any point you're having trouble with Zoom, please contact Renee Overa. Right. So now let's do a quick icebreaker so everyone can test out their Zoom skills. In a moment, you should see a poll pop up on your screen. All right, and if you scroll past the pictures, you'll be able to choose how you're feeling about being part of a resident working group. And caller in user -1, I see your hand raised if you want to let me know what your question is.
No question. I just wanted to mention that I'm calling in, so I can't see the slides. And I think you described them anyways, but I just wanted to let you know that some of us are calling in instead of being able to see the slides. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, looks like almost everybody's gotten it, so I'm going to go ahead and share the results. All right, so you should now see the results from everybody's responses. So within the first 5 minutes, I want to thank you all. You successfully completed a poll, which is another tool you'll be using and experiencing over the next 4 months. I'm glad to see that most people are optimistic and excited to be part of a resident working group, but I also understand that there is some apprehension. We hope everyone leaves tonight feeling welcome and comfortable with the online tools as well as the process for working groups. Now I'm going to stop sharing the poll, but if it is still showing on your screen, you may close it out. All right, so now I briefly want to go through some of the schedule, what you can expect, as well as how you can participate in the resident working group meetings. At the end of my presentation, I will be opening it up for questions. All right, so tonight's meeting really kicks off phase 2 of this 3-year process to create the community's next 10-year action plan, known as OB's Path Forward. So last year, during phase 1, many of you shared your ideas, priorities, and expectations by responding to the Big Community Survey, stopping at booths in front of your local restaurants, or participating online. Now we're coming back to you as residents to help transform the substantial amount of guidance received over the past year into goals, policies, and actions that will be implemented over a 10-year timeframe. As the mayor said, during the third phase of this effort, we'll be asking you to help inform and spread the word about your plan to the broader community. So why is this process for creating the 10-year plan so important? Well, we asked that very question to a group of residents, some of which are on the call tonight, to help answer this. First, it helps guide decisions and does lead to real results in the community. There were 13 people who have signed up to help create OV's Path Forward, who were also available 10 years ago to work on the Your Voice, Our Future plan. They can attest that several promises were made during the community engagement process back then. With only 2 years left of this plan, 97% of the actions have been fulfilled or are actively being worked on. Staff anticipates that all 100% of the actions will be fulfilled before the plan expires. So as a resident working group member, you are an integral part to sparking action in Oro Valley. Also highlighted on the screen is what the plan represents. In order for it to be successful and stay relevant over a 10-year timeframe, it must represent the community as a whole. Some core values embedded in this process include making sure the process is convenient and accessible to all residents, transparent and meaningful. Most importantly, as highlighted on the screen, is having a process that is inclusive to all residents with varying experiences, perspectives, and backgrounds. I'd ask that you please keep these core values in mind as you start to work with your groups. Now, based on the sign-up sheets, everyone has been divided into 4 resident working groups: development, economy, community, and sustainability. Each group will discuss 3 topics between February and May. Now, if you're unsure which group you are in, please reach out to staff and we can confirm. If you haven't signed up yet for a group, don't worry, there's still time. You can do so by going to ovpathforward.com. Again, each month, your group will be discussing a different topic. For instance, if you are in the development group, you will discuss transportation in February, housing in May, and development in April. The economy group and the community group will also begin in February, while the sustainability group will start later this spring in April. Now, if you signed up because you're only interested in one area, like parks and trails, you're welcome to only attend the meetings for that topic. Please keep in mind there will be 2 to 3 meetings per topic, so you should plan on attending all the meetings related to the topic you're interested in. Now, the topics are divided up into chunks to allow for more focused conversations, but they are all interrelated. So I want to encourage everyone to attend all the meetings for your working group. For example, just because we are done with the focused conversations on transportation in February, it will come up as we talk about housing and development in March and April. The overall goal of this effort is for each group to reach consensus on a list of draft goals, policies, and actions that honor what most residents voiced over the past year. During the summer, staff will help weave your work together to reflect the interrelationships between each topics. We will then be reaching out to you in August and asking you to make sure the refined goals, policies, and actions reflect what your groups will be discussing over the next 4 months. Now, the number of meetings will depend on the pace of the discussions, and to help make sure all meetings are efficient and productive, we are asking you to complete some homework beforehand. Tonight's meeting is a bit unique, as you'll be hearing from staff much more than you can expect in your individual working group meetings. We want to make sure you have the information and tools your group needs to be successful, but normally, staff will only be there to facilitate and provide information. The bulk of the meetings will be listening to you. That means that there will be very little time used in each meeting to go through background information and the residents' guidance. However, both are important, so please make sure you read through the items posted online. Additionally, there will be questions posted online a week before your meeting. Please respond to these questions as your responses will guide the conversations during the meeting. And then lastly, we ask that you RSVP to each meeting. This will help us make sure that we can divide larger groups up into smaller teams for more engaged conversations. I don't want anybody to worry, though, that in each meeting, everyone will be able to discuss all the aspects related to a certain topic. Now, before I open it up for questions, I want to quickly go through the website so you all know where to find information about your group and how to participate. So for those of you on a phone, we are now looking at the home page. So on the home page, if you scroll down to about the middle of the page, you'll start seeing all your meetings populate. This is where you'll be able to get Zoom links for the meeting, especially if it's the day of. You'll also be able to RSVP for the meetings in this section. Now, if you navigate back up to the top of the screen, if you go to where it says Path to the Plan, you click on that and click on Phase 2, you'll see that each working group has their own page. So let's explore the development working group. If I click on that, on the page, what you'll see is your entire schedule. It also will have links to the pages with the information that you'll need to review, and links to RSVP, which will be uploaded soon. This is also where we'll be linking recordings of each meeting. Now, once you know what topic area you're discussing, and you go to that page, at the top of each of those pages, it gives the directions with the homework that you need to complete before attending a meeting. So the reports that you should read, which includes the background report as well as community guidance, are linked. It also gives directions on how to find the discussion questions. There will be also a deadline for completing those questions, so please make sure you get your responses in by then. Again, they will help us prepare for the meeting, but you will be able to add to your responses during the meeting. This page will also have the Zoom link at the top of the page as well. Now, the discussion questions, they are at the very bottom of the page. I apologize if I'm making anybody dizzy by scrolling. But at the bottom of the page, you can see, for instance, transportation. They'll be talking about 4 different areas, which include traffic flow and safety, roadway maintenance, landscaping, and public transportation, as well as street design. So there will be questions posed for all of those. All right. So that was a very quick overview. So I now want to open it to questions. So if you have questions, again, please raise your virtual hand by looking for the hand icon. Or if you feel more comfortable, please feel free to add your question to the chat. All right, so Mike Weisberger, if you'd like to unmute yourself, be happy to.
Thanks, Malini. Just a quick question. Are you going to be reminding us to do all this stuff like on email, or is it our responsibility to just go in every time and do that?
Yeah, great question. So you will be getting emails a week before each meeting. So as soon as the homework is available and the discussion questions are posted, we will be sending an email to everybody. You'll be tired of my emails, but we want to make sure you know when things are uploaded, but also that you have the Zoom link. So the Zoom link for each group will stay the same throughout the next 4 months, but we'll still make sure you have that in email before each meeting.
Great, thanks.
Yep. All right. So Rob Young, if you want to unmute yourself.
Oh yeah, hi, thanks. Hey, just a quick thing. Where do we go to confirm which group we're in and the people that we're going to be working with?
Sure, great question. So Rob, you can definitely email us at ovpathforward@orovalleyaz.gov and we can confirm. That email address will also be on the last slide of this presentation. And also, if you've already signed up for a group, you should be getting emails from us as well. As again, about a week before your meeting, we'll be sending emails to everyone to let them know. All right, and did that answer your question, Rob?
I believe so, and there'll be more answers as I listen in. Thank you.
All right. Bill Rodman, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, Melanie, I can't remember in the 10 years ago thing and I think I know the answer. However, are we allowed to attend any of the other group meetings that are not in your particular one you signed up for?
Great question. Absolutely. So that is kind of the benefit of having the topics chunked up, if you will, into different months, because it does allow that flexibility. So if you signed up for the development group, but you're also interested in parks, you're welcome to attend those meetings as well. Again, we just ask that if you attend a topics meeting, you attend all the meetings for that topic, not just one.
Thank you.
And the meetings for all the resident working groups are posted online, so to help you kind of navigate your time and schedule. Okay, and I have, before I go to the next raised hands, we got some questions in the chat I want to address. So JJ Johnston asked if all group meetings will be via Zoom. So we are starting off with online meetings. Again, we know that during sign up, a lot of people could only attend because of the convenience of online. With that said, some meetings are in person, specifically the development meetings in April for that group. And as a group, as a collective, I just ask that everybody, let's try out the online meetings, have some patience with it because they really can be productive. But as a group, of course, we can, within your individual groups, we can discuss further. Do we need to register for the site in order to access the pages? Great question. So yes, you do need to register for the site to be able to answer the discussion questions. So you can view the pages, you can see what others are discussing, but if you want to be able to do your homework and add your response, you will need to be registered. Registration on ovpathforward.com is free. It is, but if you have any trouble at all in the registration process, please contact staff. Okay, and let's see. We got another one. I've been assigned group 3, community, parks, arts, and safety. How does that align with the 4 groups on the site? So that would be with the community group. We did shorten the names a little bit, but all those topics that you signed up for within your resident working groups will be discussed by the broader categories. All right, I'm going to take a few more questions. I do want to be respectful of everyone's time. So I do want to let folks know that all the questions being asked in the chat, as well as verbally, we are going to respond to in writing and publish that online. So if we don't get to your question this evening, please make sure you get it to the chat or email ovpathforward@orovalleyaz.gov because we will be publishing an FAQ after this meeting with responses to folks' questions. So with that, Jeff, if you want to unmute yourself.
Yes, so if we're registered for the site, will we have access to the other group meetings, recorded sessions?
Absolutely. So all the recordings will be posted online and you can watch, available for anyone to watch.
Good.
Okay. All right. So yes, if you're already signed up for groups, you will be getting emails before your specific group meetings, letting you know the Zoom link and the meeting and reminding you of the meeting time and date. All right, I think I got to almost all the questions. I'm just doing a quick double check, make sure I didn't miss anything. All right, so with that, I'm now going to turn it over to Mr. Bayer Vela, who is our planning manager, and he's going to talk a little bit more about roles and expectations.
You got one more raised hand.
Oh, dang this one. Thank you. Oh, Bill, I don't know, did you have another question or?
Yeah, it's more of a comment, Melanie, but for any of us that weren't on previous groups or the plans to do a general plan, having been on the council when I heard the results of it, and having been at some of the committee meetings, of course, but we listened to it on the council, and I know that I'm confident this same council or this council will feel the same way. So you're not going to be wasting your time, period. This is the only time that we reach out to the full community in a way to find out what are they thinking? Now, sometimes it gets to be weighed one way or the other because more people are interested in one thing. But the point of it is, it isn't a waste of time. The council will listen to it and we can really affect the path forward, to use your term. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for the comment. All right. And Mr. Vella, I'm going to be sharing your slides for you. You can unmute yourself.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Ms. Sims. I think that was a great comment, Mr. Rodman, and it really flows into what I would like to punctuate. The mayor shared with us that he's worked on 3 plans over the years, and I've had the privilege to help organize those plans. And over the years, the #1 principle still remains germane, that this plan belongs to the residents. And I really want to key in just a little bit more on meeting mechanics, particularly the roles and expectations. What is staff's role specifically? You're seeing it tonight. We're here to facilitate. We're here to set the table for discussions. Most importantly, we're here to listen. And you will see or hear staff interject in conversations about development or finance whenever the group needs us in terms of, hey, can you provide a fact? Hey, staff, are there legal parameters regarding what we're speaking about that we need to know? So our role isn't to direct or push a point. It really is about making sure you have the tools you need to do what we need you to do. And that's creating a plan for and by the residents. So that is an absolute true maxim. You're going to see staff standing up for that up and through the vote. And this actually goes to the community for the vote. So what is your role? I think it should be pretty darn clear at this point that you folks are critical to this effort. We really, really value your time, and the guidance that you're going to give us will help us do some drafting. We're going to do the drafting work, but only with you folks editing, looking at it, making sure it's right, polishing, and polishing until we get it right. So in each meeting, it's super important because it's all about expressing shared values to develop consensus. We're going to jump into some dicey topics that there will be a difference of opinion. There's no doubt. That's part of the job. The ask, though, is really to work toward this ideal, this maximum of achieving consensus. And when you look online, Google a word, you're going to come up with about 20, 30 different definitions of what consensus is. So I'd like to, ask you folks, for our purposes, what's the definition that best works for these groups? So we're going to ask you to take a poll here and I'll ask you to let us know, relative to that word, what works best for these groups to make sure that at the end of the day, we have a plan that can be approved, not just by a little bit by the voters, but overwhelmingly by the voters. So yeah, please go, hop on. Tell us what you think. Almost at 100%. Good deal. All right. All right. I would love if anyone would care to describe what is meant by acceptance among participants. Can I get a hand raise?
All right, Rob Young, if you want to unmute yourself.
Well, in participating things that I've been involved in, acceptance generally would mean that, we don't have half the committee saying no or using swear words or anything else. The bottom line is there has to be some general flow. I kind of visualize an arrow heading down the right, right down the right road or the right path or whatever, because it has to be that, or it couldn't be a consensus. It would be all torn apart with back to the drawing board to discuss it all again. Does that make sense?
It does.
All right, let's see. Jeff, if you want to add anything.
I would describe consensus as you don't like everything in the plan, but you can accept it as a whole.
Great. And I apologize if I mispronounce this. Akmoral?
So consensus to me is a decision that I can support and live with. So like Jeff said, I might not agree with parts of it, but through discussion and agreement with the group, I can support the final decision and live with it.
Okay, let's see, let's do two more. Joe Brandhuber? You want to unmute yourself? Oh, let's get you unmuted. So you should see a pop-up asking you to unmute, Joe.
It just simply means that it's being somewhat repetitious what other people have said, but acceptance means that you go along with what's best for the community, not necessarily what your personal feelings are.
All right, and Andy with an N? If you want to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I think acceptance means that not just that you're resigned, that you've been overruled or something, but I mean, I guess that'd be the worst case, but preferably it means that you're willing to support the group's decision going forward, not try to undermine it or and then good consensus to me means more than just a minority that's somehow influential getting their way, or even a majority kind of overruling the minority. But consensus to me means that there was an effort to definitely consider and utilize everybody's input and attempt to resolve differences and take the best of all those inputs.
Great, thank you. So Tony, you want to unmute?
I think it also means that you will not work actively against it. Sometimes you do run into that kind of thing when you're dealing with consensus.
Good point. And then Dawn, if you want to unmute yourself.
I would think that consensus to me means that when you analyze things, the bottom line, that it comes out as a positive to Oro Valley and something that we can all live with.
Great, thank you. And then let's see, we have Sandy Garrick.
Yeah, and following along with that, realizing that it is highly unlikely to get unanimous support of anything through a committee, but just following along with everyone's comments that perspectives and opinions are respectfully discussed and understood, and that it is the greater benefit for the community, even though everyone may not agree with that.
Great, thank you. All right, that looks like all the hands raised, so I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Vela. Let me share your slides one more time. Here we go.
All right, gang. Wonderful job. Wonderful, wonderful job. As we're going through the process of achieving consensus, it certainly consensus can take more time, and it requires listening. Everyone, and it's our focus to make sure everyone has the time and space to get a good listening. What topics are we going to talk about? Many of you have seen these populated, obviously within the working groups. I want to talk a little bit about where these come from. So most of the topics on this screen are actually required by state law for communities of our size when they're developing an action plan for the future. So everything, as you can see in that greenish color, is actually required by state law. But it's not just about achieving compliance with state law. These are all areas that the community has very clearly said in phase one. These are important things. And Oro Valley always goes beyond. And where we're going beyond, from what we've learned from phase one and from the 9,000 community comments, is that these other areas, in purple, employment, the arts and culture, business and tourism, those are important to the community as well. We need to take deep dives. So if there are topics that sometimes we might wonder, wait a minute, why are we talking about this? Just know that the ones in green, it's a requirement. And you're going to find support and backing and directional guidance from phase one in all of them. All right, so in the spirit and the vein of talking about meeting mechanics and also working towards consensus, Malini, Ms. Sims is going to lead us into an exercise to talk about a little bit about how you want to be treated when these meetings are going. What are the ground rules that you want to make sure in place to ensure that, again, we have the space to achieve consensus? Ms. Sims?
All right. Thank you, Mr. Vela. So we're now going to split you all up into smaller groups, as he said, to start working on some ground rules. Again, these are your meetings, so please think about what rules you think should be in place to make sure they are efficient and help drive towards consensus. Many of you may recall that you acknowledged some ground rules when you signed up for a resident working group. You may want to include some of those. This is also a great opportunity to practice using a virtual whiteboard. This tool will be used throughout most of your online meetings. So in the next 40 minutes, your group will come up with ideas for roles. You'll then group similar ideas together into categories, and then you'll name the categories. Now, a planning staff member will be with each group to walk you through the exercise and help with any Zoom issues. I do want to mention that these groups are likely larger than you will experience with your individual working group, and this is also likely most people's first time using a virtual whiteboard, so please be patient as we all work through this together. Also, for those of you who are attending via telephone, we will have an opportunity for you to verbally give your idea. Now, at the end of the exercise, we will bring everyone back together to quickly summarize each group's discussion to start a working list of ground rules for each groups to use. So with that, you should in a moment be asked to join it's called a breakout room. I want to welcome everyone back, and I really want to thank you all for trying out something new. Again, I know this first time was going to take some patience from all of us, but I really appreciate you getting in there and doing the exercise. Again, we will be using that virtual whiteboard in most of your online meetings, so you'll have more opportunities to practice. And if you had any trouble with it, please reach out to staff. We're happy to even meet with you and go through how to use the Zoom whiteboard. We really want to make sure everybody feels comfortable and confident with the tools that we'll be using. This is also why I mentioned to my group of why it will be so important for you to answer the discussion questions online. So for your individual working group meetings, your responses to those discussion questions will actually fill in those white boxes that you guys were doing this evening. That way, when we meet to talk about those focused topic areas, we'll already have a whiteboard kind of ready to start those discussions. You'll still be able to add ideas. You'll still be able, if you didn't do the homework or if you thought of something after doing the homework, but the more you can complete online, the more time we will be able to have a discussion. So Don, if you have a question, please unmute yourself.
When you say that if we have questions or comments, to reach out to staff, any person in particular, is an email to you? How can we do that? Because I have some definitive things that, for instance, just for my sake, you know, the font on the whiteboard was entirely too small. And it may be because the screen that I'm using here on my laptop is small, etc. But it was very, very difficult to read. But who in particular should we reach out to?
So
Thank you.
Oops, sorry. So first, thank you for the feedback. We will try to make sure the font is bigger, and we want to hear those suggestions from you all. I mean, earlier when we started the meeting, I think Sherry also recommended turning the captions on. So especially for those of you who are used to Zoom, please let us know those suggestions. In terms of who you can contact, you can email ovpathforward@orovalleyaz.gov. That's the best email to use only because it goes to multiple staff members and we will get back to you. You can also call us. My direct line is 520-229-4836. And again, we do want to make sure that we're setting up a process where everybody can participate. Let's see, Lisa Hopper.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment just to make sure all the moderators will be coming from the town of Oro Valley and that we're not independently not being oversighted from a narrative side as far as how we conduct ourselves in the meetings, etc. But there will be moderators in every meeting. Is that true?
Yeah, so yes,
Okay.
there will be planning staff at every meeting as well as staff from other departments to help answer questions. But each meeting will be structured and facilitated.
Okay. Can you please send out the contact information for those who may have a difficulty or concerns about how they're receiving the information from the town?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
And then Sue?
Yes, I just wanted to say that I agree with Dawn. I have a very big monitor, but the writing was just really small. I think it would really help if we could get that bigger.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, thank you for the feedback.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Let's see. And then Gail?
I was going to say that you can adjust the size of the text yourself on the screen. You won't be able to see the whole screen, but that's what I was able to do because I couldn't read them all either. So I just there's a place where you can see the little magnifier. You can click on it and make it bigger.
Good to know. Thank you for sharing, Gail. So we'll also I sent out some instructions for using Zoom, so I'll add that to the instructions as well, so everybody can be aware of that function. Let's see. And then Don, did you have another question?
No.
Okay. All right. So now I would like to let each group report out and summarize their discussions that they had. As you're doing this, Miss Alex Chavez is going to be scribing your categories. So again, we can kind of come up with a list of ground rules for each group to start with. So with that, let me pull up those that were in Renee's group. And it looks like Emily Veras, if you will unmute yourself and walk us, if you want to unmute yourself and tell us a little about yourself, maybe how long you've lived in Oro Valley, and then walk us through your 4 categories you got there.
Sure. Hi, I'm Emily. I've been in Oro Valley. We moved in 2021. Um, I'm a mom of three very little kids, 6, 3, and 1. So I have to say thank you very much for the Zoom meetings because I'm very much needed at home, and so this allows me to participate. Um, but yeah, so my group today, uh, it talked about all the ways that we wanted to be in a meeting. And we kind of came down with 4 categories for the way we thought an effective meeting could be held. We talked about preparation, so what the facilitator and the participants would do ahead of time, preparing for the meeting, doing our homework, making sure that we have like the clear data for the decisions that we're making. And then we talked about inclusive participation. So a lot of the norms on the way we thought participants should behave within the meetings that they're attending. And oops, someone's saying they can't see what's on the screen. And then we talked about effective decision making. We thought it was really important that all participants in each of the meetings agree on how they're going to make their ultimate decision, whether that's like a consensus, a vote, some way that everyone agrees this is how the decision is going to get made. And then we have a clear agenda and objectives. And then the last part is the expectations of the facilitator, having effective facilitation. One of the things that I thought was really interesting that we talked about was noticing that we definitely do typically have these meetings in person. So recognizing that, you know, we may need to clarify how people are attending, if it's on the phone or if they can't see the screen. So making sure that the facilitator is prepared from there, which you guys have been. But that was one of the things that we talked about in the meeting. Does that cover
Great.
everything?
Yep. Nope. Thank you.
Okay.
And I did hear, as you pointed out, that some people are still only seeing a whiteboard. We are going to look into that before your individual working group meetings, because again, we definitely want everybody to be able to see when we get into those. So we will follow up with folks once we try to get a little bit more information there. And as you pointed out, as facilitators, we'll be prepared to verbally go through things or have backup for those that can't see. All right, I'm now going to call on, see who is in Kyle Packer's group. I'm going to share your board. And it looks like Ellen Coleman. If you want to unmute yourself, give us introduce yourself a little bit, like how long you've lived in Oro Valley, and walk us through your categories.
Sure, thanks, Melanie. I'm Ellen Coleman. I've been in Oro Valley for 5 years, and I love it. So happy to be here. So our group, I was really impressed with the ideas that the group came up with, and we structured this into 4 different categories. The first category being about respect and conduct for the meeting. So being able to have empathy with others' opinions, not criticizing ideas, but not criticizing people, but criticizing ideas, following brainstorming rules, appreciating in essence everyone's perspective, and being open to new ideas and solutions that are out of the box. We then thought about the structural aspects of the meeting, so things like waiting to be acknowledged before speaking, agreeing to guidelines for how long someone holds the floor, that one person speaks at a time, meetings begin and end on time, and there's time, agendas, and topics. We then thought about some ideas around actual preparation and the impact and attendance of the meeting. So that's things like long-term factors should be considered as we have our discussion, to really know what the goals and objectives are for the meeting, and that everyone comes prepared and reads materials ahead of time, and also understand and define the community that you're affecting and the background of all those kinds of things before proposing ideas. And then lastly, we talked a bit more about engagement, which was, you know, if people weren't feeling comfortable to speak out, to make sure we had an open, you know, way of including everyone. So if someone hadn't talked yet, make sure we're reaching out to that person and get their input. and then giving everyone a chance to talk and present their ideas. If I missed anything from my group, please add in.
Anybody from Ellen's group want to add? Right. Okay. Now going to share Alex's board. It's Alex Chavez. So let's see here.
So for this, we had a lot of great discussion, and I don't believe we landed on a group spokesperson. So if I can get someone from our team and to just echo what we had talked about.
So if someone from Alex's team wants to unmute themselves and introduce yourself and then walk us through what you guys discussed. Oh, I think is somebody trying to unmute themselves?
Well, my name is David Ketchum. Looks like I better jump in here.
Appreciate it, David.
My wife Jana and I've lived in Oro Valley for 5 years, and I'll repeat what someone else said, that we really enjoy it and respect it and appreciate the work that you, Melanie, and your staff, your other people that work for the city do. So to the whiteboard, I think I was impressed by how the different groups all said basically the same thing in different ways. So starting on the left, it's basically understanding where people are coming from, and that is listening. Much of that is listening. And I think the second one there on the left side is interesting, and not to, once a decision is made, we can move on. I've been involved in, I still run a business, and I get involved in situations where people are just unable to let go of their opinions or their decisions. So I think moving on from decisions is important in this. I think the idea that ideas need to be vetted to reach a decision is very important. A gentleman, I don't remember his name, early on made the point that we can all sort of go in one direction and not really stop to think about the impact of that direction and whether it's really real, or we're just sort of following the group. So I think vetting ideas that we make decisions on is very important. How we conduct ourselves is an obvious thing. Someone mentioned being collegiate, which is a great term. Listening to this group, and certainly listening to the people from the city, from the town, I don't have any concerns about that. I think we will all be very respectful of each other. The third column, respecting all view and options. Understanding that we might have disagreement on things is important. Clarifying deliverables and deadlines, I think, is a key item. I'm a little concerned about the term consensus, because in my view, generally consensus means that there is general agreement on a particular subject. It does not necessarily mean majority rule, but I do think that consensus means that as a group of however many people are involved, that in general, the subject we're discussing is something that we generally agree on. We may not agree on all the specifics of how to enact something, but consensus is an important term for what we're about to do. Preparation. This all comes down to the same thing, all of those columns. And I put myself on notice here by saying on that second board, preparation to provide clarity and focus. I think it's important that we prepare before the meetings so that when we do say things in the meetings that we're able to provide clarity and focus quickly without extending ourselves into an hour discussion. So I think preparation is very important. And I think, Melanie, that pretty much covers it unless people have questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, moving to the next group. I'm gonna put up those who are with Buyer Vella. I'm gonna get your board up. And let's see if Sandy Garrick can walk us through, and I'll try to zoom in a little bit for you, Sandy.
Okay,
There you go.
thank you. I'm it zooms for everyone. Actually, there we go. All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Sandy, and I am definitely looking forward to being a part of these resident working groups. Really had some great ideas from our group. Starting out, we kind of labeled them under 3 main topics. The first one being common courtesy and respect, but there would be no name calling. Feedback would be constructive, remembering to critique the ideas and not people, not attacking anyone personally, but being respectful of others and their ideas. That includes not interrupting, showing, common courtesy, using I statements in the sense of sharing our feelings and thoughts. Certainly being patient, willing to compromise. And one of my personal favorites that someone mentioned in that was assuming positive intent. We all have different backgrounds and perspectives, but assuming the best of others is really helpful, as well as showing empathy, right? Setting the meeting ground rules so that we can come to that consensus where the majority really feel this is best for the community. Under active participation and listening, that was a big one, which is important that we actively listen instead of listening to see how we would defend our perspective, but rather considering the perspective of others, being open-minded, wanting everyone to have a voice, considering all the points of view. Again, not criticizing, but listening, paying attention, being engaged, following the agenda, all of those really fell under that active participation and truly listening to each other because we care about each other's opinions. And lastly, we lumped under focus and efficiency, putting in the research and data, reviewing the history. We can learn a lot from that, what's happened in the past, what's been successful, but also keeping an eye on what is a potential solution. It could be a new solution as well. Time management, respecting everyone's time, sticking to the agenda, using a parking lot, or in this case, a whiteboard through Zoom, which I think is going to be helpful once we all really get familiar with it. And then starting at a high level, working down to get more detailed, but really focusing on, what are our goals, right? And all of our goals, the reason we're spending the time is to continue to benefit the community, which I realized I forgot that in the first part. So I've lived in the Tucson area for 25 years, but I just bought my house in Rancho Vistoso in August. So I'm very excited to be a new resident of Oro Valley.
Great. Thank you, Sandy, and welcome and congratulations. All right, I'm now going to bring up Michael Spaeth's board. All right, so if we can have Robert Sabo, unmute yourself, introduce yourself, maybe how long you've lived here, and then walk us through your board.
Thank you. Good evening, all. My name is Robert. Been living in Oro Valley for 2 years. I can be found at the parks with my dogs. We live off of the newly named Hardy Highway area. And I was in breakout room number 3 with Michael. To keep it short, we identified 3 core categories to create a clear structure to guide our discussions. The first one on the left would be respect and etiquette. We want to ensure that we listen fully and then answer all questions and obviously respect each other's opinions. The second middle column, we do want to focus on common ground, active listening without interruption, maintaining empathy to understand different perspectives. And on that far right, we're going to have our goals and objectives. We did emphasize on having a clear agenda with documented ideas to stay focused. And just to keep it short and sweet, that's the tip of the iceberg for our discussion tonight.
Great, thank you, Robert. All right, and then lastly, I'm going to share my group's board. And ask Jody to introduce herself, how long you've lived here, and then walk us through it.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jody Koch. I've been a resident of Oro Valley for coming up on 30 years this summer, and selling real estate for 27 of those years in Oro Valley. I'm just excited because I want to help Oro Valley grow responsibly. And so I think this is the greatest way to do it, is ask and listen to those who care about our town. With that, we had a couple of columns as well. Respect and listening, that was our big one. I think everybody had that included in all of theirs. We're not looking for egos, we're looking for respect, and we're looking for listening and communicating so that we can help each other come to a consensus. Honor the process and manage expectations. So deal with facts, not just desires or wishes. I know somebody else brought that up, is, what's good for Oro Valley. Realistic expectations. Be positive and encouraging, giving everyone the floor, not looking for someone to dominate the floor, but giving everybody their time. And our third column, please be prepared. In other words, carry your weight. So we've talked about that a lot already as well, but staying on task, being organized, doing your homework. I just loved when they threw out the carry your weight. And so if everybody comes ready, we're going to have some great meetings. And then consensus is key. It's all about working toward that consensus of, somebody said earlier that they really wanted to just be able to support it, but they don't have to agree to all of it. And I really appreciated that comment. So thank you.
Thank you, Jody. All right, great discussions, folks. I'm now going to ask Alex if she will share her screen, and we're going to put up the list that you guys just came up with. Please remember, this is a starting list. So as you get into your individual working groups, you can definitely you can change things and you can add to it as you get into those smaller groups. All right. So looking at this list, it's pretty comprehensive. And it's funny, you guys really touched on a lot of the ground rules that we included in the sign up without even knowing it. Let's see. So looking at the list, the only one I want to ask the group, if you want to add to it, is that being consistent in your attendance at meetings. Is that important to everybody, that folks attend meetings consistently? Does anybody have any concerns about adding that to the list? If so, please unmute yourself. Yeah, I'm not hearing anyone, so I'll ask Ms. Chavez if she'll please add consistent attendance. All right, so looking at this list, and
Malini,
yes.
can I just say though, if people have to miss for various reasons or other commitments, I would still love to hear their voices when they're able to attend. So while consistent attendance is important, I don't think it should prohibit people from joining when they're able.
Absolutely agree. So definitely we understand people's schedules and we want everybody to participate when they can. We also encourage you, if you know you're going to miss a meeting, you can still put your responses on the discussion questions. At least that way your ideas are out there for the group to discuss. But it does help to attend the meetings to add some further context. But absolutely would agree with that comment that please don't let your attendance stop you from participating. All right, so I'm now going to try to see how we are with consensus on this. So just a reminder, what we defined as consensus, right, is that everybody can accept these, knowing that your level of acceptance may vary. So I'm now going to launch the last poll for you all this evening. All right, so do you accept these ground rules as a starting point for your resident working groups? All right, looks like most people have responded, so let me share the results. All right, it looks like most people accept them, but like I said, you could definitely continue to change or evolve them or add to them within your individual groups as you continue through this process. Yep. All right, so I've closed the poll. Again, if it's still on your screen, feel free to close it as well. I'm just going to share some last slides to wrap up this kickoff event. So again, I want to thank everyone for attending tonight, as well as participating in the polls and the virtual whiteboard. The turnout to this online event is pretty remarkable, and I hope everyone has learned something new and saw for your own eyes how online meetings can be productive. You guys did great. You came up with a whole list of ground rules and gave a lot of really good suggestions on better ways to use Zoom. So moving forward, you can expect that each meeting will start and end on time. So right now, all the meetings will start at 5:30 and end at 7:30. Now, we do understand that 5:30 may be difficult for those who are commuting from work or other locations, but please try to join as promptly as possible. If you need to join late, that's okay. And also, we understand if you need to leave early. Again, please make sure you complete your homework and RSVP to the meeting so we can fill the whiteboards before the meetings and break people up into smaller groups. This will help us have more time for meaningful discussions during the meetings. And again, thank you for taking time to help OV's future. What came very clear tonight was all of your guys' care and commitment to Oro Valley, and we do appreciate it. I do want to mention that a recording of this meeting, including the presentation slides and the responses to the questions that were raised tonight, will be published on ovpathforward.com soon. And if you haven't yet, please make sure you sign up for a resident working group. This is because we will be sending out those emails to folks each week before the meeting to let you know when your homework has been posted online. If you have any questions or concerns, you could always reach out to us at ovpathforward@orovalleyaz.gov. Now, I really hope that this meeting helped everyone feel a little bit more confident and prepared to participate in the resident working groups. Again, if at any point in the process you have questions, please reach out to us. But with that, I want to wish everybody a wonderful evening and stay dry. It looks like it's raining tonight. Thank you all.